Well, everyone, it's that time again. I hope you're all feeling very, very well today. Let's show you what I'm painting today. Now, before I show you what I'm painting, as an artist, I think you will agree with me. When you're painting or when you decide to paint something, I think a lot of it depends on the type of subject. Don't you agree? I find, and this is just me, I find sometimes that I have to be in the mood to paint a certain subject. You know, I can't just walk into my studio and just start painting. I find that very difficult. What I tend to do is I look through photographs. I might have some printed out, or I might have some on my phone. I sit with a cup of coffee and I think about what I'd like to paint, what I'm in the mood to paint, because there's a certain mood that takes over you, I think, when you're just deciding that you want to paint something. You get a feeling, and when you're looking through different photographs trying to get ideas, something will kind of catch your eye and you'll say, yeah, I'm in the mood to paint this. I want to paint this. And that's what happened to me this morning. I was sitting for about 40 minutes, maybe an hour, just with a cup of coffee, and I was flicking through some photographs, trying to get ideas, some inspiration to paint something, and something kind of just popped up. It must have been there for months and months. I never even saw it before. It just popped up and it just caught my eye, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to paint this. I'm in the mood. I'm in this kind of a mood that I want to paint something like this. Do you understand what I mean? Let me know what you think about that. You know, sometimes you could be in the mood to paint a nice rich sunset. Other times it could be a seascape or something. You know, I find it very difficult to just sit down and paint something randomly. I just find that difficult. There has to be a certain mood involved. And I saw this one and I thought, this is going to be beautiful painted. It's just a light and a hint of a little autumny colour in it. It's very similar to the one we painted 2 weeks ago with the umbrella. It's very similar, but it's just that certain kind of something in the photograph caught my eye, and I thought, yeah, I really have to paint this. This is something I really want to paint. So I'm going to show you what it is. It's a very, you see that? There's something about this picture, I just feel I have to paint it. That lovely autumny colour coming down into the painting, it just really catches the eye. And the light against the dark again, you know me, I love a light against dark. It's just so eye-catching. And the last one I painted with the umbrella, with the puddle, I don't know if you saw that, pop over and have a look at that. That was very nice as well. I changed the figure in the end. I made it kind of slimmer and all that, but it looks lovely. But I framed it and I hung it in a restaurant, and immediately when I hung it, the customers around me were all kind of talking and they were looking at it. You know, it's one of those kind of very eye-catching paintings, and it speaks a lot. There's a story behind it, and it just really draws you in. So that kind of a picture I find really draws people in. So I thought I'd like to paint another one. So this will be easier, I think. The last one with the puddle was a bit complicated for people, so this is going to be a little bit easier, and just we'll go through it and we'll just take our time. We'll just have a bit of fun with this one. So that's what I'm going to paint. Okay, I hope you enjoy the video. I have my stuff set up here behind me. 16 by 12 canvas. That should be enough. I'll set the camera back up here facing the canvas and the palette, and let's have a bit of fun with this. So thank you for tuning in if you have, and don't forget to give a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to the channel as well. Let's go. Let's have a bit of fun with this. I'll be right back. Very hard to get that effect. So this is a dry canvas. I haven't primed it or anything like that. I'm just going to run some linseed oil over this, just to give it a quick coat, you know, just to wet the canvas. Now, you can of course use liquid clear for this if you like. That's absolutely fine. Liquid clear is great. Or just some thinners if you don't have linseed oil. Just a bit of thinners. I just want the canvas nice and kind of oily, you know what I mean? And it's drying in very, very quickly, so I'm just putting plenty on. And in hindsight, I maybe should have gave the canvas a quick 1/4 primer, but it's very difficult to know how your canvas is until you start painting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a small pointy brush, and I just want to put a couple of lines in. You see the railing we have? Just a couple of marks, just to show where everything is. So I maybe just take a little bit of burnt umber, lots of turpentine, small pointy brush, and I'm just going to put a couple of lines. So I'm going to just, let's say, start with up here, okay? This is where the top of the road will be. A bit coming down like this. We'll have a bit coming down like this over to this side here. And then let's go slightly higher with this, just to give us a bit of perspective, okay? That's all we need. That's all I need to do, okay? Just a couple of reference lines, nothing else. The colours I'm using today are titanium white, phthalo blue, lamp black, burnt sienna, magenta, Naples yellow and black. If I feel I need to add 1 or 2 as I go along, I can. But I think we're okay with that for now. And I don't know if this is going to be a 1 or 2 part tutorial. Let's just go with the flow and see what happens. I'm going to start with a nice blue for the very top. A nice light blue, but it's a very whitey blue with a hint of magenta. Okay? It's that kind of a colour. It's a very warm, soft, subtle kind of a bluey shade. And let's just take a look. All right, I'm happy with that. And the linseed oil has already started to dry in. I can feel it on the canvas. The canvas is already starting to drag the brush. That's how you know if your canvas is very, very dry. When it starts kind of dragging the brush an awful lot, you'll know it's kind of a very dry canvas. Now, a little bit more pink as we come down. Now, if you know me by now, you'll know that I just tend to work quickly and I just kind of get into things. I find, for me anyway, I find that's the best way, because it's all spontaneous. You know what I mean? It's very spontaneous. That's the way it should be. It's a very spontaneous type of a painting. A little bit of, I'm just putting some white on its own now, just right down here, where it gets very bright, okay? And just soften it away up. So, I have a nice bright colour up there. As we come down, the colours start to warm. And a lot of you may have difficulty kind of thinking about the right colour. I'm just going to look at the photograph, okay? I'm going to say a little bit of magenta, maybe a touch of burnt umber, something like that. Something along those lines, but we'll just try it and see. Let's take a touch of burnt umber, a touch of magenta, and some white. Look, all we do is try. And now I think as well, there's probably a hint of black in there. So it's this very soft, browny, pinky grey sort of a shade I'm seeing. It kind of comes up around this side, doesn't it? So I'll start up here, just bring it down very loosely. And you see, the thing about this is, because there's pink in this, because it's a pinky shade, it's going to kind of merge nicely into the blue as well. So I just took a little bit more white there, and I'm going to soften it into the blue just a bit. I'm just literally, look, I'm kind of switching my brush around in all directions just to give the impression that there's a bit of a tree line going off into the sky up there. And we can soften it away into the sky here and there, look. Give it a nice soft feeling. Bring it down. Now, that's not bad. I might use that colour and go up and suggest just 1 or 2 little bits of a tree foliage or something coming into the painting on this side. Just a little bit. But again, this is going to be nice and soft. I want it nice and soft. Now a bit of white. Take a bit of white. Let's soften a bit of white just around the middle and go around in little circles into the blue, into that lovely sky. So look, we want this all nice and misty. I'm going to wet the canvas with some thinners here because it's very dry. The canvas is so dry. I should have primed this canvas, but The truth is, I didn't have time. I was kind of rushing this morning, getting a lot of stuff done. Now, a bit of black, magenta, and a bit of white, okay? A nice pinkyish kind of a grey. I'm going to start softening that down and across. You could even maybe add a touch of blue as well into this if you wanted. It's up to yourself. Take a bit of blue from there, look. Pop a little blue, because blue will always give you that bit of distance in a background like this. I just want to soften everything in, make it nice and soft. And there we have a nice soft background. So, I'm going to continue down here with some darker shades. I'm seeing a little bit of a dark mauvey colour over down in that right hand corner. I'm taking some blue, some magenta, and a little bit of black. I see that there's a kind of difficult to describe. Now again, we don't have to be exactly the same as the reference photograph with this, alright? We don't. We can add our own colours to this. A bit more magenta, and let's try a touch of sienna. Again, that kind of a warm browny, pinky sort of a shade. I'm coming right down, just to where the road is, the footpath, the cobblestone. Maybe a touch of burnt umber. You see how we're just kind of picking up colours. If you feel it needs to be more brown, just pick up a bit of brown. Just pick it up with your brush, put it on, see what happens. Bit of sienna. And just give the impression of that tree line, that's off in the distance there, look. I'm going to soften this all away. Now we need a bit more of the brown, don't we? Just to complement the autumn shades, let's put a bit more of a sienna with magenta here and there. Just want to get that nice and soft. Maybe a little bit of that over here, again to complement the painting. What I try to do with paintings like this, I try to transfer colours across the canvas. So you can see now we've similar shades on both sides, which is nice. I like that. Soften this away up. Now we get to the roadway and the side railing here. What I might do is just dampen my brush, give it a quick clean. I want to merge that background while it's wet into the road. Okay, so I'm taking some of this bluey mauvey shade with some white. And while I have it on my palette, so to speak, I might as well just pop a little bit of it in here, just to get the rough outline. And then we can soften that along the line, just soften it away off into the distance. So it was a nice impression that the road just disappears off into the distance, into that mist. You see what I mean? That's quite nice, I like that. I'm going to put in the dark section over here. And again, quite simply, with just big brushes, let's not go to loads of detail with this, all right? Let's pick up some burnt umber and a little touch of black. And let's just put suggestion of that railing in, like so, look. I'm using vertical brush strokes for this all the way. You see what I mean? Take a bit of sienna, pop a little bit of a tree or a bush in over here, bit of foliage coming off the top of the gate or the railing. Let's try burnt sienna with a little bit of burnt umber, creating as if you can see through those railings and you can see the bits of leaves and all that kind of thing. Bit of black, bit of burnt umber, just something nice and dark. Okay, you can see what I mean there? Let that just very gently disappear away like that. Now, let's get a little bit of sienna and a tiny touch of Naples yellow. Pop a little bit of highlight on here and there, just to catch the light, look. Tiny, tiny little bits. Just one or two. So you can tell there's something there then, but at the same time you can't tell what it is, if that makes sense. Now along the bottom, I'm going to take some Naples yellow, burnt sienna, little bit of magenta. But there's plenty of sienna in this mix. I just want to kind of, you see the way there's an impression of leaves or something just along the bottom of the posts here. Just let that just disappear off. Just give us a little bit of an impression, and we can just use our finger to soften it away if you like. Look, soften it away off into the distance. Isn't that lovely? Then what I'm going to do is take my small pointy brush. I'm going to take a little bit of black, just a tiny bit of black thinned out on its own. I'm just going to put a suggestion of the bars coming down here and there, look. And again, it's just a few. You don't have to go crazy with this. Just to show that there is a lot of bars in along there, look. We can do the same along the top. Then drag it off, leave it disappear. We do the same along the bottom. You see how it's nice and wiggly? I'm not making it completely straight. After that, a little bit of highlight. Now, the highlight I'm going to say is just a white. It's like a white maybe with a touch of Naples yellow. It's a very, very bright highlight. Let's just take a little bit of that and pop a nice thick bit of that across. Maybe miss a little bit here and there and then go again. And it's up to you how thick you want to go with this. That's nice and thick up there, so I'm going to go nice and thick with it. Just keep loading up your brush. Get it nice and thick. There, that's a bit better, isn't it? Let's go again, down the bottom. Wherever you see that nice, thick, bright colour, just pop it in. It gets a bit more kind of solid as it goes off into the distance, doesn't it? You see how I'm just kind of, I'm allowing the brush to just sort of hit and miss and just dab. You don't want to kind of a very solid line, okay? You see what I mean? Just little chunks of it here and there. Now, I'm not going to put the green, we have a touch of greeny shade over here. I don't think I want to put that in. I might just put in a dark-ish area just over here. Just a little suggestion of something, you see? Just a little suggestion. And then I'm simply going to do the very same with this over here. Bit more Naples yellow, bit of white, and just a nice suggestion of highlight, just touching here and there. Okay? Then we have a little bit of dark colour down below that. So you can see now, it's just literally lights against darks. And that's what catches the eye with this type of painting. It's all lights against darks. Nice thick line over here as well. Now look how far we've come already with all of this. You know, we've a lot of the background pretty much finished. All we need to do now is just come right down onto the road, and I want to try and get just a very light impression of the cobblestones. Now, I haven't painted a lot of cobblestones in the past, but I'm interested in trying. Okay, let's take some black, a little bit of magenta, bit of white. We've just sort of pinky grey. Let's try this first. Let's go over and we'll just soften it up over on that side. You see how it just kind of comes in on either side. And we'll soften it again, keep softening. Then we'll do the same, pick up a touch, maybe a touch of blue even. Do the same on this side. It gets lighter as it goes away off. So let's just very gently drag it out here. Then we go into a bit of brown. There's a dark browny autumny shade down in this side over here, look. You see, I'm just kind of softening colours through. Then I'll take some magenta, a little bit of blue, and get a nice rich purpley shade as well. I'm leaving all, you see how I'm just adding touches of this across the middle. And I'll show you why. Because we can just put our cobblestones nice and gently through that colour then later. A little bit of a bluey shade here just for the shadow of this person with the umbrella. Again, softening it away. Now, I'm cleaning my brush very quickly, just very quickly. Go right into this white, pop this white, fill in around the centre. Just drag a bit of white here and there. I'm going to go to another brush. Now, it's amazing when you think about it, we've only used these two brushes to paint all of this. Do you know? So, think about it, you don't need lots of different brushes. A bigger brush allows you to be more free and less restricted with your painting, I find. So, that's what I tend to do. Now, I must get some white on my palette. We're going to put in some nice highlights on this roadway. So at the moment I'm completely forgetting about the figure with the umbrella, okay? Let's just pretend he's not even there. Get this medium sized brush, lots of white, a little bit of Naples yellow. That gives you that bit of a kick, it gives you that sunlit kick, okay? Just drag this across. This is just the early stages of this now, okay? Cross here. And it comes down like that. I'm just following the direction of the light. That's all I'm doing. Just getting some rich brightness in there initially. Now let this soften away, off up into the background nice and gently. I'll be honest, I'm slightly worried about painting these cobblestones. Do you ever get like that? You get slightly worried, don't you? But I have a couple of different ideas in mind for the cobblestones. Now, they may work, they may not work, but I'm just going to try it. What I'm going to do is take this little flat brush, all right? Give it a slight damping, dry it off. I'm going to go into some darker shades. I want to get a kind of a purple. Phaylo blue, magenta, a little bit of black. Plenty of magenta in this actually, okay? I'm going to start by putting a few darks in here and there like this. Now, maybe a bit of white, come on, a bit of white, and a bit of sienna. It's a bit blue, isn't it? There's a bit too much blue in this. Let's get some more magenta and a bit of sienna. That might be a bit better. It's a pinky browny shade. I'm going to start by just putting a suggestion of these in here and there first, okay? So to the side of the brush. As it goes up into the distance, maybe a bit of a warmer shade. Just to suggest the little bricks, very, very loosely for now, okay? Very loosely. You see what I'm doing? Just giving a slight suggestion, little hint, just to tell you that there are these little bricks on the footpath. Bring them down. Get a bit more sienna, just a rich kind of a dark colour. I need a bit of a darker shade down on this side over here, don't I? So a bit of black, a bit of magenta, And let's just go to town, filling all of this in. And I'll grab some burnt umber for my palette. Okay, let's go again. Bit of burnt umber. Burnt umber on this, just randomly over these here and there. I suppose at the end of the day, the whole idea is with this is just to give an impression of a kind of a cobblestone effect. So I'm just literally dabbing, just creating lots of these little cobbles. Now what I'm going to do next is clean that brush. I think we're getting there slowly, aren't we? I'm going to go to my small pointy brush, my detail brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of a dark colour. Even look, this colour we just mixed up, this bit of burnt umber, bit of blue, just like a bit of everything in there, okay? Just get a very, very dark colour, nice and wet. Let's just start putting in some dark lines, very, very dark lines. Now this has to be very wet, okay, in order for this to work. Let's start putting in some very dark lines. And they're not kind of square, they're sort of ovals. Look, they're little ovals. It's just catching little bits of dark in between. This is where all the time can take. So you can start to begin to see how I create my cobbles. I just go around each one kind of on one side, so maybe the shadow is kind of catching just the back of the little stones. Once you get further away, it's just little marks, look, just small, small marks. You can go out into these and put a couple as well. And look, at the end of the day, I keep telling myself, this is just an impression, you know, I'm not painting. If you want to go and paint individual little bricks yourself, please, you can do so, absolutely. You know, some people like that and they find that very therapeutic. For me, I lose patience when I'm doing that type of painting. And it's not something I'm proud of, you know, it's just the way I feel sometimes. I just don't have the patience because I just want to kind of crack on and get something on the canvas where I can see. So I'm just literally putting a couple of suggestions of outlines of the cobbles. Okay, you can see that there, you can see what I'm doing, just little suggestions of outlines. I could keep going at this now for another hour, I suppose, I could. But then you'll get bored and switch over to something else, won't you? So that's why I'm just putting in little impressions. You can take your time with this and put a lot more in, okay? That's the thing. That's the thing about tutorials. You can just get a general sense of the painting and you can kind of add it to your own. Then you can put your own little touches in here. But what I'm going to do next is just then, when I'm finished this, I'm going to pop some hints of light on some of these. So they're going to be catching the light, a lot of these. And that's, I think, when it will start to come to life. Just little curves, look, little half circles, very randomly. Just very, very, very randomly. A bit of darkness up here and there. Just look, tiny, tiny dabs of colour. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to take a smaller brush. I'm thinking this nice small little flat brush. Alright, I'm going to just simply grab some white. Now let me just clean my brush first, make sure it's nice and soft. I'm going to grab some of this white with Naples yellow. Let's just try this to see what happens. So, we have a nice one here. And we pop a couple of these in. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of just, I'm putting the colour on and flicking it away. Okay, you see that? Even on just some of the edges, look. Just little flicks of that colour. Let's do the same over here. There's just one or two over here. Little dabs just on the edges of some of those cobbles, look. As it gets over into the shadows, it gets less and less, doesn't it? Up around here, there's going to be a lot of these little dabs. Right in the middle where all that light is, let's just put lots of little dabs in there. Just catching the edges of some of them as they go off into the darkness. So you're kind of picking out individual little cobblestones then, you see what I mean? Now, I prefer this as an impression for a painting rather than sitting here for hours and hours on end trying to paint individual little stones. But as I said, if that's what you like to do, then do that, okay? Just take your time with it. Don't try and get it all done in the space of 10 minutes. But I just like an impression. I'm going to go up now and just add lots of light up here. Just gently dragging the brush around. Look, lots of small little marks. Just to suggest all that light hitting those stones way off in the distance. Okay, let me clean my brush and we kind of tend to stand back then and take a look. Now we need a lot more punch around here in the middle, don't we? There's a lot more of them. So I'm just going to put plenty around the middle. Even big ones as well, look. I'm also going to add a hint of a warm shade into some of these. So I'm taking a bit of that kind of burnt sienna as if they're just catching some warmth from the sunlit trees as well. A little bit of a kind of a very soft, peachy, orangey kind of a shade, okay? Just to catch the sun. And it brightens it up as well. This colour will also complement the trees once we have trees in. Now I'm going to just soften these with my brush very gently, just to help them just disappear slightly back into the roadway, the footpath, as it's called, the footpath. I keep getting my words mixed up this morning. And what I'm then going to do is take my small pointy brush, just like with the black, and go right into some white. And then just hit some of these with a little flick of white, as if it's just catching some of the edges. So you can pick out the shapes then, you see. You see how that just picks out the shapes. And over here especially, there's a couple of nice ones here. A couple of little dabs of colour here and there. And look, I'm just being careful not to overdo this. I don't want to go crazy with all of this, but I leave it up to you how far you want to go with all these little things. I just leave it up to you. It's your decision. You know, I'm not saying that I'm right. And that's the one thing about me. I admit if this is not maybe the best way to do this, but this is the way I like to do it. If you have other ways of doing these, more eye-catching ways, then yes, you just do that. You stick to what you know, but at least I've given you the basis of which to start, okay? That's what I'm about. Now, another effect we could do is we could just grab a palette knife, grab some white, and we could just pop some nice highlights up here, drag it across, just lots of little dabs, Create the impression that there's lots of light catching these cobblestones way off in the distance. And then bring it down. Now that's another effect you could try as well. It's a palette knife. So we're getting all that light in the middle as well, aren't we? I'm just going to now soften some of these away. I don't want very thick paint on this. I want it nice and soft. I want that kind of soft effect, if you understand what I mean. Especially off in the distance. I want this nice and soft, so it just disappears away. And there we are. Now, the next thing I want to do is the trees. I'm going to leave my figure until the very end, okay? Soften that well. Let's do the trees, and this will be a lot of fun. Quite simply, take a pointy brush, let's get some burnt umber, lots of thinners, and some black. Now you could probably just use black itself as well if you want. It's up to yourself. Let's go up around here and bring this nice thick branch around, and then let it fall down into the painting. Another one up like that, and that falls, comes down. Another smaller one. Okay. Let's just bring a few off of this. Everything just falls down. And just give them a nice little wiggle as they're coming off. Always wiggle your branches, okay? Don't try not to make your branches straight like this. Always give them a little bit of a wiggle. Couple coming in underneath as well. You don't have to go mad with this because a lot of this will be covered with foliage. Lots of thick foliage. So I'm just going to bring a few down out of the top like this. Little flicks, look. Now, this is coming on quite nice, isn't it? So we have lots of lovely foliage, lots of lovely branches there. Let's get a, what do we do? A fan brush perhaps? Should we try a fan brush? Come on. I'm thinking fan brush. I just have that impulse, I suppose, to get a fan brush. Bit of Naples yellow, a bit of Sienna. We can just dab, let me hold the canvas, and just dab a few onto this one. Literally, dab, 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 dab. Let's go some more Sienna, bit of burnt umber. Isn't that a nice effect? I think it's quite nice. I'm going to add another colour to my palette. There's some Sienna. I'm also going to take some cadmium red and get some nice rich red autumn colours on this. Let's get Sienna and some cadmium red. Okay? Let's go up here and let's literally fill this area with that nice autumn Sienna cadmium red. Now I'm not going to go kind of too far too quickly because I'm conscious of the fact that I want to put some nice knife work on this as well. Nice thick knife work foliage. So I'm not going to go too crazy too soon with this. Just very gently. I'm going to call this the filling stage. We're kind of filling out, aren't we? Get a bit of Naples yellow and a bit of Sienna and just maybe pop a few of that Bit of a colour in there, just to catch the light, so to speak. We'll go with that again, catch some light. Right, I need to get a nice orangey shade, so I'm going to add some cadmium yellow. So if you look up there, I'm just going to put some cadmium yellow next to my cadmium red. All right. What I'm going to try is maybe with the palette knife. Let's get some cadmium yellow, lots of cadmium yellow, bit of cadmium red. Let's mix that up, just kind of loosely, okay? Now let's put some of this on and see what it looks like. Now isn't that a bit more eye-catching? I think you'll agree. And we can just suggest kind of one or two biggish leaves down towards the end, just sort of popping off. And the fantastic thing about the palette knife is you can be very random with the knife. You see what I mean? You can just kind of scrape colours onto it without worrying too much, if that makes sense. That's why I love using a palette knife for this type of effect. It's just, it gives you such a lovely effect, and you don't have to really worry too much about making a mess. As long as you put lots of these nice, thick, bright orange impressions on the canvas, that's all you need to, you know, that's the aim. Let's get some rich cadmium red as well. You can go in just very random shapes. You can put a couple of nice bright ones up here. Now, although they don't look like leaves, it's about the impression, it's about the feeling it gives you when you look at the canvas and you think, oh, all the lovely rich leaves and etc. That's what it's about for me. It's the feeling you get when you look at all these rich colours jumping off the canvas at you. Now, I think that's coming on really nice. Nice rich reds. We can go into some yellow, look, let's grab a lot of yellow. Oh, I picked up some blue by accident with the corner of my knife. Let's get rid of that. We don't want any green on this, so let's get rid of that, clean the knife. You see how that little accident now just... Luckily I spotted it. Let's put some rich bright yellow on top of some of these, just to help them jump out that little bit. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's your painting. You can do what you feel is enough, okay? So if you don't want to go to all this trouble with the foliage, you can just use a palette knife, or sorry, not a palette knife. You can use just a fan brush or something and just put a quick impression with the fan brush if you like. It's completely up to yourself. As I say, these are your paintings. You do what you feel is right for you. That's all I would say. Just once you're happy, that's all that matters, isn't it? There's one here coming off, a couple of little twigs falling down. I'm going to stop at that, my friends. Call this part one finished, and then we will do this figure walking. I think it's going to look very nice. So, I will say to you, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part two. I think that even itself now looks very, very well, and it only took us 40 minutes. And you can see we only used 2 or 3 brushes. So I hope you've enjoyed watching part one. I'll be right back with part two, and we'll finish this little figure with the umbrella. This might be very, very eye-catching. Let's see. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.